Today on 301 Banter, we're joined by Minnetonka native and Boston College rower Molly Welch. Molly has continued to make an impact for the Eagles both on the water and in the classroom, earning a CRCA Scholar-Athlete Honors and a spot on the All-ACC Academic Rowing Team. During the 2025 season, Molly competed across multiple varsity boats for Boston College, helping the Eagles post strong finishes at events like Head of the Fish, Eastern Sprints, ACC Championships, and Lake Wheeler. She also helped Boston College continue its dominance this season as the Eagles captured their 8th straight Christensen Cup title while contributing to a third varsity 8 victory at the Connect Cup. We'll talk about her journey from Minnetonka to ACC rowing, balancing athletics, academics, and competing at the collegiate level. Molly Welch joins 301 Banter right now.
Welcome to 301 Banter, a show having conversations with the finest athletes across Minnesota. We delve into the trials and tribulations of the athletes, coaches, and broadcasters that make the sports world in Minnesota tick. So whether you're a diehard sports fan or just curious to learn about different people, join us for discussions and behind-the-scenes glimpses into Minnesota's vibrant sports community.
What first got you into rowing? Because again, it's just not one of those like typical sports when people think of, but again, it's obviously massive. Again, have it at the collegiate level at least, and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it was honestly kind of a coincidence. I grew up playing soccer. I played like as a little kid and through high school, and decided not to pursue it at the collegiate level when I was choosing colleges. And so I got to BC originally, like not planning to be an athlete beyond probably like intramurals or something. But rowing is one of those sports where if you have like that athletic base, you can there are a lot of people who can pick it up. Like there are walk-ons that went on to be Olympic rowers, which you don't see in a lot of other sports. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's more of a possibility, I guess. And so I got the email to come to tryouts. I think probably it goes out to like every freshman girl who has a sport on their application or something like that. But I got the email to try out a couple weeks before I moved in, and I texted one of my friends from high school who he rowed like briefly, and really liked it, but ended up having to stop because of COVID and then never went back to it. And I was like, "Hey, look at this. Wouldn't this be funny?" And wouldn't this be fun? Like, should I do it? And he was like, "You have to. Like, you will love it. You will have the best time. Like, I wish I could." He was at college in Arizona at the time. He was like, "I wish that that's something I could still be doing. Like, you have to at least go try out." And so I just did. And now it's been 4 years.
Yeah, and again too, I think go and try out. The worst that's going to happen is they're like, sorry, we're going
Yeah.
to go in a different direction. We're going
Yeah,
to
the
take
worst that
somebody
happens
else.
is you don't make it.
And it's
Yeah.
again, it's not like soccer sport you grew up playing that you're like, I'm super, and like, you might be super passionate about it now, but it's like when you
Yeah.
try it out, I'm sure you're all just like,
Yeah, very
well,
low stakes.
yeah. So um, yeah, and I'm sure it's a little bit tougher to row in the desert of Arizona than
Right. Yes.
than in Boston. But again, you grew up in Minnesota, went or grew up in like the Minnetonka area. Obviously, Lake Minnetonka here too is massive. How did growing up like in Minnesota and around just lakes help you develop as an athlete and in the kind of give you a base maybe to be a rower and
Yeah, for sure. Well, there are definitely there I've since learned that there are a few rowing clubs around where I grew up. There's one on Long Lake, and I think there's one downtown, and there might be a couple other ones that are like pretty relatively big, especially for the area. So that's cool. I think I've never gotten the chance to row because I've only come home from college for one summer, and it's when I was a freshman. But I would be so interested to like take a boat out just like 1 or 2 days if I'm ever there for like, I don't know, just to see how it is. I think it would be so much fun. Rowing on the Charles is really cool. Because it's just like they do so much rowing out there, and it's such like a like everybody knows Boston, the Charles, everything. So it's really cool to
Yeah.
be on it every day. But like I feel like the experience of being on the water, like where I grew up, would be really, really cool. So hopefully someday I'll get around to that. Um, but I think that I don't know if this is lake specific, but I think that growing up where I did, um, really like made me the kind of person that would just like go out and try something new just to see what happens. I think that my teammates and my coaches like throughout childhood, really everybody just kind of had that attitude of like just go try and see what happens. And I think that's something that is, I don't want to say unique. I'm sure there are people like that everywhere, but it definitely seems like something that's like a little bit more of like a Minnesotan, like a Midwestern culture thing. And I think that that kind of turned me into a person who would, you know, get to a brand new city and within 2 weeks decide like, hey, maybe I should try and compete in this sport for 25 hours a week without any experience. So that is obviously something that I'm really grateful for as well. And I don't know. I mean, I think getting back to your point, just like growing up in such a beautiful place, like how could you not do like an outdoor sport? I guess like I can I couldn't imagine, and no shade to any of these sports, but like basketball or anything inside. I'm kind of like you travel all over the place to go play it and you're inside the whole time, but getting to see like so many different states and like especially be on different like bodies of water now is just so cool. It's so interesting and they're all so different, which I probably wouldn't have thought about before.
Absolutely. And I think too, correct me if I'm wrong here, but just growing up in Minnesota, like it at least gave you not like it made you comfortable around bodies of water. And like,
Yes,
even
definitely.
if you weren't like, I'm going to be a rower, like you're like, okay, I'm comfortable in a boat. I'm comfortable
Yeah.
next to the body of water at least. So,
Yeah.
um,
Definitely, and I remember when I first started, there was someone in my walk-on class who ended up, she stopped rowing after, I think, our freshman year, but she had been a swimmer and still was just like terrified of the river. And that was just like, I just like didn't understand that at all. Like, if you can swim, what's the difference between, the river, the pool, and, no hate to her. I'm sure there was a valid reason, but that was something that I just like couldn't comprehend. And maybe it's from, you know, being in various bodies of water that ranged from really clean to like a little bit suspicious.
yeah, yeah. So you mentioned you grew up playing soccer.
Mhm.
How did that, um, playing soccer and any other sports that you played growing up too, if you played any other sports, how did that help you, um, just as a collegiate athlete now?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, just having done any sport at like a highly competitive level for a long time is kind of necessary to like pick up another really intense sport just because you have to have kind of that base of athleticism and like experience of training and like applying techniques and all of the things that like are like the most general things to make an athlete successful, I think are things you can only get from having been an athlete before. So that obviously has been really helpful. I also, growing up, had coaches, a few like really great coaches, especially like middle school and high school, who had a huge emphasis on like coachability and like being responsive to critiques and being able to show that you're trying to make those changes. And that's definitely something that's been super important. Now, just because like when I got here, I had literally no idea what I was doing. um, because how could I? As somebody who had never done the sport before. And so the only way to really I wasn't going to be great from day one. And so the only way to really demonstrate that like you made a good investment in me as an athlete is to like have a good attitude about wherever whatever boat I'm in, wherever we're at, and also to be able to like hear those criticisms and like immediately try and do something about it, even if the change isn't like perfect right away either.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, just uh, I also work over at the Lake Conference Network too, so they've got
Oh,
their own streaming platform now, so I've been able to watch a lot of late conference events too, and just
That's
that
cool.
that conference as a whole too is you know makes it competitive, and no matter what the sport is.
Yeah.
So again, you mentioned um, kind of the decision and what went into the decision to row at Boston College, and kind of the the unusual path of that decision happening after the decision to attend Boston College. And there's a lot of athletes that are the other way around. They're like, I want to compete at a Division I level, and then they find what college that is, or at a collegiate level. So what went into the decision to just go to Boston College in the first place?
Yeah. Well, sort of once I had decided that I didn't want to play soccer in college, which I mean, I loved soccer up until I stopped playing it like the very end of my senior year of high school. That was kind of just more of a, I don't know, ready to try something new. And I didn't really want to go to school super close to home, but there probably weren't a lot of places that, it was going to be realistic for me to play there that were going to be in the area I wanted to be in. And so I kind of decided, okay, let's just start over. And BC was started out as a little bit of also a coincidence because when I first started looking at colleges, it was COVID, and so I was kind of just looking for something to do and ended up going to a bunch of virtual college tours that, like, maybe I would have put more time into, vetting them and seeing if I was interested before I attended those, if, like, all of my other activities and everything were still happening, and if I was, able to leave the house. But I remember BC stood out to me in that just like first general virtual tour, because I'm a political science major. I'm potentially interested in law school, and he just was talking about how they have a really great program for that. Like, there's a lot of name recognition from BC if you're applying to law school, like all things that I was like, oh, that sounds pretty good. Like, especially if I like it more. And so I went and toured over MEA weekend, which was really, really funny because the admissions officer that I was like sending my application to and emailing with back and forth, he has worked with the Midwest for I don't know how many years, but so many. And so we're sitting in the auditorium, and he's like, and the panel is about to speak, and he says, "1 second before you guys say anything, I want to see something." And he turns to the audience and he goes, "Raise your hand if you're from Minnesota." And it was 90% of the people in there. And he was like, "Yeah, they got MEA weekend over there. Everybody comes to tour this weekend." So that was just funny. But I like fell in love with Boston. I loved the campus. Honestly, my tour guide was sort of not very good. And I still was like, I really want to go here. And so if my tour guide was not very good and I was still obsessed with it, I was like, this sounds awesome. And another just like funny coincidence that I mean I didn't think about it at the time, but looking back, is MEA weekend and Head of the Charles, which is like the biggest regatta in the country. I think maybe in the world, but don't quote me on that. That also always happens on whatever MEA weekend always happens on the third week of August or second or whatever it is. So I remember walking around with my mom and her being like, "Oh, look at all those boats. Like they're about to go do a big race. Like it's a big deal." And I was like, "Yeah, totally." And like didn't really think about it again until until my first year rowing when we were getting ready to race in it. And I was like, "Oh my God, they were here when I came to visit."
Yeah, absolutely. That another thing I've heard from other athletes through this show too is you know you've had a bunch of athletes that have gone either gone to college or are currently in college, and they're always saying like fall in love with the school first. It's like
Mhm.
because even if your sport goes away, it's like you still
Yeah,
have to go to school there. Like
yeah.
so fall in love with the school before you fall in love with the team, or
Yeah,
just
and
as
it's
much
like
as you fall in love with the team.
yeah, because it's like that like, competing takes up such a huge chunk of time, like, practicing and everything else that you have to do, but it's also not all of your time. So if you don't like anything about, like, walking to class even, BC is so beautiful. Like, I could be having, like, the worst day ever, and as long as it's not pouring rain, like, on my walk to class, be like, "Well, wow, okay, this is pretty awesome." Um so like there is, even though it feels like, and it is such a big commitment to be an athlete at this level, like there's also so much time that has almost nothing to do with it. And so if you don't like where you are even a little bit, like it's not going to be, it's not going to be fun.
Absolutely. So speaking of Boston College and rowing here, the program this year took home the eighth. You haven't been a part of all of these,
Right.
obviously, but the eighth straight Christensen Cup. Um, so what does it mean to you to even have just even a tiny bit? I mean, I know it's more than just a tiny bit
Yeah.
of helping to contribute to that streak, but what does it mean to you to at least help contribute to a streak like that? And
Yeah. It's honestly just been so cool to be able to see, even over my 4 years, like how much the team as a whole has improved. And that's something that is, I think, relatively unique in a lot of team sports because I feel like either you do an individual sport and you work for yourself, or you do a team sport and it's everybody on the court trying to score, everybody on the field trying to score one goal. And rowing, you get like a little bit of both, where, you know, you are a team and it's super important in that team dynamic, but also you have not individuals, but like smaller groups of people competing for different, you know, different goals or in different races or whatever. And so it's really, I think, been it's been an awesome experience to see like how my coaches and how teammates, like we all like navigate that balance of like trying to be really competitive internally because we want to be the fastest that we can, and we also want our fastest people and our fastest boats, but also you don't want to be like constantly at war with each other. Like you, at the end of the day, like everybody is a team, and everybody's boat contributes points at the conference championship. Everybody's boat like makes the boat above them faster by trying to push them at practice. And so it's regardless of, you know, if you're in the boat that ultimately mattered to win a cup or to win a specific race or not, like you know that putting in your best effort at practice every day is making it so that the boat above you has to work harder so that you don't beat them, and then that, and it all just like translates up and back down. And I think that we have some really really good depth on our team. Our 3V are like um the last boat that's competing at ACCs this weekend has some really fast erg times, lots of walk-ons, which I always like to point out, and has been like putting on really a show this entire season, which has been so cool to see because it has definitely pushed the boats above it to have to and to want to do even better, which is awesome.
absolutely, it seems like it's kind of a combination of like gymnastics where it's like they're each competing individually and their scores contribute to the team score,
Mhm.
and like soccer where it's like you're all competing together. It's like kind of in between that where it's like small groups are competing individually, but you're competing
Yeah.
still as like a smaller group.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it.
So you've also rowed in different seats throughout your career at Boston College.
Mhm.
So what seat has been your favorite to row in, and why?
That's such a good question. Um, well, I definitely spend a lot of time in bow pair, so either bow seat or two seat, just depending on which side I'm rowing. And I like it back there. I feel like I can I feel like I can kind of unfocus my eyes and still be able to see the rhythm because there are so many people in front of me, and so it makes it easier to kind of like relax my face and like all of my body that isn't actually doing the rowing, and just put all of my energy into like my legs and my arms and my core kind of. People talk people talk a lot about like having a relaxed face, and not like grimacing or like putting a lot of energy into your face because then you don't have it for the rest of the stroke. And so I think that kind of having 6 or 7 seats of people ahead of me where I can see their blades going, I don't have to look at any one of them in particular and can kind of just like, I don't even know, not zone out because I'm locked into the race, but like zone out of like thinking because it's just all happening. So much of it is happening in my eyesight that I can just go along with it without looking at one particular person. And that is, I think that's just something that I don't know. I just kind of prefer to race like that. I feel like it's a lot easier for me to feel like I'm putting in my full like physical effort if I'm not also like thinking super hard about like remember to watch the one girl in front of me so that I can match up, which obviously you have to do if you're further up in the boat, because if we aren't matching up, then like nothing else is going to work out. So that's kind of something that I don't know has, and maybe that's a symptom of starting off in bow all the time, just because that's kind of where you tend to be put like as a new rower. It has a little bit less of an effect on the rest of the boat when you're still learning, and also I'm definitely on the shorter side for rowing, and so being in bow is just kind of a another result of that. And so maybe I've been conditioned to like it a little bit more back there, but definitely I've spent a lot of time back there and I don't have any problem with it. So
Yeah. Yeah. And just tensing, left pinky toe. It's like, okay, you're expending more energy than you need to right now. And it's like just any type of cardio is like, okay, you're expending a ton. I know the Boston Marathon was just recently too. So it's like I'm sure the runners are like trying to conserve energy as well as much as they're also in any athletic competition. It's like
right.
you're still spending a ton of energy everywhere, but minimize the unnecessary energy that is spent. And whether that's,
Yeah,
again, left pinky toe that's being flexed or your face is tense, whatever that
right.
is, it's like, no, just if it's necessary for the movement, then yeah, do that. But,
Yeah, nothing
um,
else.
right, right. Um, so you've also received, um, some academic honors as well. So all ACC academic honors. How do you balance the athletic side with the academic side of being, and it's still student first in student athlete. So
Right.
how do you balance both sides of that title?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little bit of a challenge, but obviously not impossible since, we're all trying to do it. But I think it just comes down to like being organized, like knowing, I don't want to be cramming for a big test the night before we're gonna have a 2K like test piece, because then I'm probably not gonna do very well on one or both of those. And so being able to just kind of anticipate, like, I get my training plan 2 to 3 weeks out, and I obviously have my syllabuses, which can change a little bit, but not in crazy ways usually, from the beginning of the semester. And so just kind of going and seeing if there are any like conflicts of the really hard, intense academic portions with the intense um, rowing portions, like if there's any overlap, like what can I do to kind of get out ahead of it before then. Also just like being able to ask for help and ask for support. Like BC is really great about offering, excuse me, about offering like tutoring to athletes if you need it, about having like designated study spaces that you can use like with your team or just individually. Like there are a lot of resources um, that they offer and that I think are super important, that can help, just kind of make sure that you have the time and the space to really focus on academics when you need to, and then focus on athletics when you need to. And hopefully there's a little bit of extra time outside of both of those for some fun things, but yeah, just like not being afraid to use everything that's available to you. I think, I don't know, sometimes there's like a little bit of a, depending on the culture of your school, I think a little bit of stigma around like athletes as like not working as hard in class or like not being as smart, like, oh, you're there because you had to do the sport. Um, and so I feel like especially for like walk-ons and novices, I know I personally was like, well, I don't know how much that is true, but I decided to come here before I was going to be an athlete. Like, do I really like deserve all of these things that they're offering? And it's like, it's not really about that. Like, it's available, so you should use it. Um, like, it's going to make it, it makes my life easier to use those resources, regardless of, if it's, I don't know, a tutor or just like letting a professor know, like, I'm not gonna slack off in your class, but like I have kind of a crazy schedule that like a lot of your other students might not. Like the worst they can do is say like I don't care. But a lot of times they're like, no, yeah, that makes sense. Like that's a lot to do, and you know, if you ever need a little bit of help, like just let me know. And so I think not being afraid to ask for help and use the help that's available to you can also be really important, because like, you don't have to do everything by yourself. Even though, it's mostly your own effort. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to feel like nobody else knows what's going on.
Yeah. It's professors, coaches, the tutors, if you need, it's like
Yeah.
that they want to help you. And it's as long as you're, I feel like asking them and talking to them in a respectful way that they're going to be respectful of your time and, and mental effort of it
Right.
too. So,
Yeah.
they coaches and professors, I feel like all want you to succeed at both. And
Yeah.
especially the coaches with the academic side, because I know the NCAA has at least a minimum standard of you got to keep a certain GPA to be able to actually compete in
Right.
so like they're like, we at least want you there, but they obviously want you to succeed higher than that. But
Yes.
um, yes, the resources, you're not taking an opportunity away from someone else. Like that, they're there for everybody on campus.
Right. Yes.
uh,
Exactly.
so we got a couple more questions here.
Mhm.
Um, uh, so this one, when you look back at your obviously 4-year rowing career up to this point, and just your athletic career, you can look back at soccer too, and who has helped you the most in your, we'll call it, athletic career?
Wow. Yeah. Um, I mean, this is probably maybe a little bit of recency bias, but my gut reaction is to say my coaches at BC, especially the two that I've kind of worked with the closest, Grace and Julia, they have really been there for me like throughout Grace my entire career. Julia only I think the past 2 years, but just because of that's when she joined us. And so I think that especially this year, like going into graduation and into just like there just was a lot going on. And I definitely didn't have like the necessarily the senior year that I had imagined, just in terms of like how I was feeling like mentally. And so it was really, really helpful to know like, oh, I have coaches who if I go to them and I explain what's going on, like they're gonna be really understanding and they like have been here before and they like want me to do well, like not only in rowing, but also like in school and just like in life. And like to be able to have those resources of just like I know that if something like really goes badly, I can be like, hey, please help me, and they will do it. With the other end of the bargain being that, like, to the absolute best of my ability at every other time, like, I'm showing up and, like, being there for my teammates and, like, putting in the best effort that I can and showing up for workouts and, trying to get faster and trying to get stronger. And that those relationships have just been like I definitely couldn't have done this past semester without them. And even before that, like just knowing that we have so much support like from this coaching staff and from um, kind of the rest of athletics has been huge. Like honestly, when I first made the team, I was super excited, but I was like, this is a huge commitment. Like there I can foresee a lot of obstacles, like, is this something that I actually wanna get into? And if I hadn't heard from from other athletes, but also from, like, coaches and staff about all of the support systems that are kind of built into athletics at BC, I probably would've shied away from it a little bit more. So that has just been, like, huge.
Absolutely. And again, too, I think whether it is going to professors for academic help or coaches for and whatever help you need, I feel like, especially in college too, they've seen a lot more than you think. Like they
Yeah,
have, there is a 99.9% chance that they have seen a situation that is
worse than
or exactly like yours or very
yeah,
similar to yours, and they know how to help. So,
yeah.
um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
so
work at a I have a part-time job as well that I've had for the past couple years, and it's in a restaurant, and so when my friends will be like, "I just had such an embarrassing experience with like, at the coffee shop," or "I had such an embarrassing, like, I misspoke, I said something weird to, like, the cashier at the store." I'm like, "There is a 0% chance you're the weirdest person that they see today, so just, like, don't worry about it." And that's kind of the same principle I think um, that applies here, like, you are not the only person that has had this problem before and somebody knows how to help you, because if it's your first time having it, it's not their first time seeing it. And so you just have to like embrace that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I also worked in retail and grocery store, and it's like 99% of the customers we'd get, it's like I'd forget about them by the by the time I got home.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just trying to make it through my shift. Like it doesn't really matter to me. So
Right.
yeah. Um, Last question here, and this is a question we ask everybody to kind of get a good kind of book, I guess, of answers for this one.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for kids that are looking to either row past high school or play a whatever sport that they are playing past the high school level?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have like that traditional recruiting experience. So I know that that's like a huge part of it, but I can't really personally speak to it. So I'll probably choose a different route. Um, but I guess I would say kind of almost in the same way that earlier we were talking about like fall in love with the school before you fall in love with the team or the sport. Like, if you wanna have a long lifespan on the sport that you're playing or even on, like, athletics in general, like, you have to fall in love with doing it for yourself before doing it, like, to have that chance in college or to have that chance professionally. Like, obviously, it's super important to always have goals, but, like, if you are like, beating yourself up every day, whether it be, like, physically doing too much or mentally, like, you just don't like it, or if you're, like, in a program where you're like, "This isn't sustainable for me," like, "These people are so mean to me," even, like, you aren't gonna get as far as you wanna get, and so, like, regardless of if you come from, like, a super prestigious program or if you have 0 experience in the sport like I did, like, if you know that, like, being an athlete is something that's really important to me personally, and like I love going out and training, and I love like the feeling of competing, and I love being able to make myself like faster and stronger and better. Like, that is the foundation that you need to have longevity in any sport. And so if you're at a point in like middle school or high school where you're like, God, I can't wait to graduate and, like, move on to college sports, or, like, or, like, I don't like my club, like, I can't wait to get to my college team, like, there's, I think, a decent chance that that won't actually solve the problem. Sometimes it will, sometimes you're just in a bad environment, like, I don't wanna speak to everybody's situation, but a lot of times I think you have to, like, you just have to kind of look inwards and figure out, like, what do I love about this sport? What is causing me stress, and how can I, like, maximize my, like, happiness around it and sort of minimize. You never can minimize challenges, you always wanna be working hard and trying to better yourself, but there are definitely difficulties that are necessary, like, you know, trying to, if you're a runner, like, trying to reach that PR or trying to, like, get to that weight in the weight room or whatever, like, those are all necessary challenges that should also kind of be exciting, and then there are the, like, stress and negativity and, like, people that you don't wanna be around, like, those types of challenges, and you don't necessarily have to deal with those, or you don't have to deal with them in huge amounts, and so, the earlier that you can kind of create an environment that, like, fosters your passion for the sport, you know, the earlier the less likely it is, I think, that you're gonna burn out or end up just, like, throwing it all in one day and being like, "I can't do this anymore," you know?
Yeah, and I think Minnesota actually does a great job with that in youth and high school sports too, where it's the community based and not the triple A. Like they put more emphasis on playing for your school and
Oh, yeah.
playing with your friends and so at least in again, I grew up in Minnesota too, so I can't speak to other states fully. Um, but it's like just being able to play with your friends and people you grew up playing with. I feel like no matter what the sport is you're gonna associate that with more fun and then love the sport even more too. So I think
Yeah.
Minnesota does it right with on that aspect of it too.
Yeah, I totally agree. I remember when I was playing soccer, my club team didn't have a fall season at all, so that you could play for your school and for your club, and that was, I think, super important because, you know, you get more connected to your school and you're more involved with extracurriculars, and, like, that's all really good also, but also it kind of took away from some of the, like, super competitive. I always have to be the very best because there were certainly players on my club teams who were really good, way better than me, and their school was pretty bad. And so they would have to go through their fall season and just like do their best and work with some players who weren't up to their level and like deal with those losses. And I think that definitely helps kind of stop that feeling of like I always have to be the very best, and if anything ever goes wrong, like it's completely my fault. Like a lot of those anxieties that come with like being a high level athlete, I think that that system kind of can help mitigate that, which I definitely think is, yeah, I think we're doing it right in that respect.
Absolutely. Well, Molly, thank you for taking the time today to talk with us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Massive thank you to Molly for taking the time to sit down and chat with us today. We wish her the best of luck going forward. Thanks to you for watching this interview with Molly. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like down below. Naz Reed. If you want more interviews like this and other Minnesota sports content, subscribe and turn on post notifications that'll let you know whenever we post. Comment who you want to see next on 301 Banter. We'll see you next time. Peace.